The House will be in order. Prior to going at recess, the House was at the 11th order. The House is at the 11th order. The House will have under consideration House Bill 235. Good gentleman from District 30.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of House Bill 235 be dispensed with.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is the fiscal year 2014 appropriation to the Public Employee Retirement System of Idaho in the amount of $6,860,000 with full-time equivalent positions capped at 63. The mission of PERSI is to provide members and their beneficiaries with reliable, secure, long-term retirement, survivor, and disability benefits as specified by law, and to assist members in planning a secure retirement for providing high-quality, friendly service, retirement education, and information. The Retirement Administration Program administers the PERSI Base Plan, which is a defined benefit retirement plan that is mandatory for all eligible state and school district employees, and for employees of political subdivisions which have elected to participate. It provides separation, disability, death, and survivor benefits. The PERSI Choice Plan is a defined contribution retirement plan which provides 401k plan options to approximately 65,000 eligible active PERSI members. The Choice Plan is in addition to and separate from the defined benefit plan. The Portfolio Investment Program is responsible for the management of PERSI assets to ensure secure long-term returns on investments while minimizing investment cost. Administrative costs of the portfolio investment come under a fixed appropriation, and the remaining investment costs continue to operate under a perpetual appropriation as provided in Section 59-1311 Idaho Code. This budget is comprised of dedicated funds only. This appropriation is of maintenance of current operations budget only. It includes $52,600 for the increased cost of benefits, $126,500 to pay for replacement items, and $2,100 to fund SWICAP, which is statewide cost allocation program, for a total appropriation of $6,860,000 for fiscal year 2014. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, I ask for your green light.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 235 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Representative Bedke votes aye. Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll.
The gallery is filled.
The roll call shows 55 ayes, 0 nay, 15 to absent and excused. House Bill 235 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 235 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, point of personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the gallery, we have a group of students from Andrus Elementary. We want to welcome them here today, Representative Mordaunt and I. Thank you for coming. Enjoy your stay.
Welcome to the gallery of the House. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 236. Good lady from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 236.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 236 is the fiscal year 2014 appropriation to the Idaho State Lottery in the amount of $5,423,700 with full-time equivalent positions capped at 47. This budget completely pays for itself, and dividends are equally split between the School District Building Fund and the Permanent Building Fund. And there are certain statutory limits on the spending of the monies. For example, the administrative costs can't be more than 15%, and I ask for your support.
Is there further debate? Good lady from District 35.
Would the lady from 6 yield to a question, Mr.
The
Speaker?
lady from District 5 yield to a question.
The
yields.
lady would happily yield, yes.
Lady yields.
Is it District 5, Mr.
It's
Speaker?
5, yes.
Lady from 5, just curious. It seems to me, when we started out with the lottery, we had 3 people. We have 47 now. And I'm wondering if, well, in your, when you do your hearing in the Joint Finance Appropriation, did they talk about why they have that many employees?
Good lady from District 5.
Mr. Speaker and lady, yes, generally with all the budgets, there's an analysis of the number of FTP and whether they're appropriate. And I think that just the fact that the lottery is spread out around the state and requires a bit of support in personnel to carry out all the charges requires that FTP, and so it has grown to this amount, but I think we're convinced that they're all useful at this time.
Would the lady yield one more time, Mr. Speaker?
Would the lady yield to another question?
She would be happy to.
The lady yields.
The other question I have, do the vendors, they do not consider those as part of the employees, do they? The vendors that sell the stores that act as the vendors?
Lady from
Mr.
5.
Speaker and good lady, no, they don't. They get a commission on the sales.
Thank you.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 236 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Have all the members voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 39 aye, 19 nay, 12 absent and excused. House Bill 236 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 236 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 237. The gentleman from District 30.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that House Bill 237 be the further reading. I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of House Bill 237 be dispensed with.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request that we cease the reading of House Bill 237. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 237 is the fiscal year 2014 appropriation to the Division of Building Safety an amount of $10,949,000, with full-time equivalent positions capped at 121. The Division of Building Safety administers 5 bureaus and houses 7 boards. Funding for the building, electrical, plumbing, public works contractor licensing, and heating, ventilation, and air conditioning bureaus is provided through fees for licenses, permits, plan reviews, and apprentice training registrations. Other programs operated by the division include the industrial and logging safety programs, funded by transfers from the Industrial Commission, and an Energy Code program funded through grant monies from the U.S. Department of Energy and the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. This year's budget includes increases for benefit cost adjustments, contract inflation, replacement items, and a reduction of statewide cost allocation. This appropriation also reduces the number of full-time equivalent positions by 10 and reduces the personnel cost appropriation by $500,000. This reduction is to help align actual spending with the budget. This budget is 2.5% overall decrease below the fiscal year 2013 appropriation. With that, Mr. Speaker, I ask for a green light.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 237 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Have all the members voted? Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 67 aye, 1 nay, 2 absent and excused. House Bill 237 has passed the House. Is there correction to the title? Hearing none, House Bill 237 will be transmitted to the Senate. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the bills on the remaining bills on the third reading calendar hold their place one legislative day.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the remaining bills on the third reading calendar will hold their place for one legislative day. The House will now advance to the 12th order of business, consideration of general orders. The House is at the 12th order. Good lady from District 35.
Mr. Speaker, if I might, I'd like to ask unanimous consent request that Senate Bill 1006 be moved to the amending order.
Would the lady explain?
I would. Mr. Speaker, when they brought the bill to us, it had a Senate amendment in it, and they said that in the amendment that if there was a hearing, they may hold a hearing. The highway districts, I should explain that. The highway districts may hold a hearing on an abandonment or accepting a road back from the state. But it also left out it said also they needed to notify the landowners and businesses along that route, and it should have said must, and it just says also. And so it's a one word we'd like to add to the bill to make it the way it should be.
Thank you, good lady. You've all heard the unanimous consent request to make a Senate bill a little bit better and move it to general orders. Is there an objection?
Mr. Speaker, I don't have an objection, but that almost sounded like a typographical error.
I will assume that the good members of the Transportation Committee will take care of it. You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do now resolve itself to the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and the House will resolve itself into a Committee of the Whole. Will the gentleman from District 13 come forward and chair the committee?
Committee will come to order. Chairman will take a point of personal privilege. This is the chair's first opportunity to be in the chair and actually chair general orders. So we're going to have some stops and starts probably that will occur today, so I would appreciate it if you'd have a little patience with the chair. And the Minority Leader has asked me maybe to go over some explanation of what happens in general orders. So I will try to be as patient as possible and forgiving, so we'll take this as slow as we can. But basically what will happen is an amendment that will come forward on the bill. The person that presents that amendment will have 5 minutes to present the amendment. If anyone wishes to debate against the amendment, they will have 5 minutes. And then at the close, you'll have 2 minutes to close that. So that's kind of the ground rules on how it operates. The committee will have under consideration House Bill 45. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 1 of House Bill 45 has been made by Representative Clow and seconded by Representative Thompson.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 1 will be considered read. The chair recognizes the good gentleman from 24 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have placed the House Bill 45 in general orders to offer an amendment to delete a definition, correct the title, and make some technical corrections. This bill has no fiscal impact, and this amendment has no additional impact. The original House Bill 45, as approved with a due pass from the House Business Committee, included a definition of obliterated corner. It was brought to our attention that there are various uses of the definition and actual definitions used by the Department of Interior. When dealing with the Department of Interior, it is preferred by various stakeholders that they not have a conflicting definition in the Idaho Code. Therefore, the definition obliterated corner found on page 2 of the printed bill, lines 7 through 13, has been deleted in this amendment. This has required several technical corrections to the remaining paragraphs of this section 2 of the bill. The removal of the definition also required a correction to the title by deleting on page 1, that line 3, to define a term. I ask for your yes vote on this amendment to HB 45.
Is there debate in opposition? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 1 be adopted? There will be a voice vote. There always is a voice vote in here, unless there's someone that requests that we have a roll call, at which point we all three would need to rise and then we would stand, but this is not recorded. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. It will be done. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
Is there correction to title?
Yes, the motion for correction to title has been made by Representative Clow and seconded by Representative Thompson.
If there are no objections, the correction to title, House Bill 45, will be considered read. You've heard the motion to correct the title. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried and the title will be corrected.
Mr. Chairman.
Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rises, it reported that it's had under consideration House Bill 45 and reported back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Thank you. You have heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried. The committee will now have under consideration House Bill 111. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend the bill.
Mr. Chairman.
Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rises, it report that it's had under consideration House Bill 111, report progress, and beg leave to sit again.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You've heard the motion in committee. Again, we're going to explain some stuff. So beg leave sit again means we're not going to take up the amendments to House Bill 111. This bill would still remain on general orders. So that's what the motion is before you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried and it will be done. The committee will now have under consideration House Bill number 98. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 3 of House Bill 98 has been made by Representative Rushi and seconded by Representative Wood 27.
If there is no objection, the amendment to Section 3 will be considered read, and the chair recognizes the good gentleman from District 6 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a very simple amendment to the catastrophic health care and indigent care bill. What it does is reflect the Hospital Association's desire to be given 30 days on their request rather than having to prove that there is good cause. That's the only result of the amendment, and I ask your acceptance.
Is there debate in opposition? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 3 be adopted? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried and the amendment to Section 3 will be adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
Is there correction to title?
No correction to title.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rises, it report that it has had under consideration House Bill 98 and report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried and it will be done. If at any point we're going a little too quickly for any of the new members, just stand up and let me know. We'll slow it down a little bit. So, all right. The committee will now have under consideration House Bill 90. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 1 of House Bill 90 has been made by Representative Luker and seconded by Representative Anderson 1.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 1 will be considered read. The chair now recognizes the good gentleman from District 15 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment clarifies that with the exception of Idaho Code 239031, which is liquor licenses based on population. All specialty liquor by the drink licenses are non-transferable to other locations, facilities, or premises. The amendment would allow transfer between owners at the same location as long as all of the specialty licensing requirements are met.
Thank you. Any debate in opposition? Hearing none, debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 1 be adopted? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried and the amendment to Section 1 is adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
Is there correction to title?
Yes, the motion for correction to title has been made by Representative Luker and seconded by Representative Anderson 1.
If there are no objections, the correction to title of House Bill 90 will be considered read. You've heard the motion to correct the title. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried and the title will be adopted.
Mr. Chairman.
Good gentleman from 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rise, the report that is had under consideration House Bill 90 and report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried and it will be done. The committee will now have under consideration House Bill 90. Are there amendments?
I think we're at 91.
91, excuse me.
Yes, the motion to amend Section 1 of House Bill 91 has been made by Representative Harris and seconded by Representative Mendive.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 1 will be considered read. The chair now recognizes the good gentleman from District 21 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment is associated with a bill that would disallow temporary poll workers, election workers, from claiming unemployment insurance. The amendment is to change the definition or the term temporary to one where he or she would receive less than $1,000 in a calendar year. That would be the new definition of that exemption. This also puts it in compliance with federal unemployment insurance law. Thank you.
Thank you, good gentleman. Is there debate in opposition to the amendment? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 1 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried and the amendment to Section 1 will be adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
Is there correction to title?
No correction to title.
Mr. Chairman.
Good gentleman from 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rise, the report that is had under consideration House Bill 91 and report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The committee will now have under consideration House Bill 113. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 1 of House Bill 113 has been made by Representative Bowles and seconded by Representative Erpelding.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 1 will be considered read. The chair now recognizes the good gentleman from District 10 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For those members of the body here, House Bill 113 is an agritourism bill, and what the amendment to the bill is satisfies the requirements that the Idaho trial lawyers came up with in committee. Requires signage to limit the liability, and they had some concerns about the signage wording, and so we have met with them and come to an agreement on the signage language on that, and so I would ask for your approval.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 1 be adopted? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried and the amendment to Section 1 is considered adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
Is there a correction to title?
No correction to title.
I will put the committee at ease. Hello. Committee will come to order. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rise, the report that is had under consideration House Bill 113 and report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Will be done. The committee will now have under consideration Senate Bill 1049. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 1 of Senate Bill 1049 has been made by Representative Van der Woude and seconded by Representative Wood 27.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 1 will be considered read. The chair recognizes the good gentleman from District 22 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a very simple change. It changes H to N. You may wonder what that change actually makes. As we're establishing the Oil and Gas Commission, it changes instead of a per diem, they're paid an honorarium, which saves them being involved in Percy and being a state employee. And so it's a very simple change. We've had some of those changes come later on some other bills. We decided to change this one before the bill gets through. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate in favor of the amendments to Section 1? Hearing none, any debate in opposition? The debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 1 be adopted? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries and it will be done. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
Is there a correction to title?
No correction to title.
Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman for 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rises, report that it has had under consideration Senate Bill 1049 and report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The committee will now have under consideration Senate Bill 1013. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 1 of Senate Bill 1013 has been made by Representative Morse and seconded by Representative Malik.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 1 will be considered read. The chair now recognizes the good gentleman from District 2 to open debate.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this amendment in Section 1 changes the state policy from authorizing the maximization of contributions to granting a limited contribution and lifeline subsidy for the Telephone Communications Act. This is a change in policy, and along with changes in Section 2 of the bill, it will modernize terminology and significantly limit some of the expansive language in this bill. It limits state authorization for this program, does not defer to federal rate changes or delegate authority to the FCC to allow higher subsidies. I ask the committee for your approval of these changes in Section 1, and it has no general fund impact.
Is there any further debate in favor of the amendment to Section 1? Hearing none, any debate in opposition? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 1 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried, and the amendment to Section 1 will be adopted. Are there further amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 2 of Senate Bill 1013 has been made by Representative Morse and seconded by Representative Malik.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 2 will be considered read. The chair now recognizes the good gentleman from District 2 to open debate.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Section 2 amendments delete references to a telephone exchange, as telephone services are now both cell and landline based. Consequently, those terms must be changed and modernized. The bill amends lines 32 and 33 of the existing legislation to delete authorization to the FCC to allow increases in the state subsidy level above $3.50 per line charge. The bill amendment limits the communication subsidy to a single line at the household. Prior law allowed a single residence line at the principal residence. The amendment lowers the monthly subsidy from $3.50 a month to $2.50 per month per line. This is a 29% decrease in a subsidy rate. There is no state fiscal impact. You will save telephone users subsidies and surcharges by the amendments, and I ask your approval for this amendment.
Any further debate in favor of the amendment? Section 2. Hearing none, any further debate in opposition? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 2 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried, and the amendment to Section 2 is adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
If there's no objection, the correction to the title will be considered read. You've heard the motion to correct the title. All in favor signify... Oops, excuse me. Got a mistake here.
Well, yes, the motion for correction title has been made by Representative Morse and seconded by Representative Malik.
Thank you. If there are no objections, the correction to the title of Senate Bill 1013 will be considered read. You all have heard the motion to correct title. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried, and the corrected title is adopted.
Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rises, a report that is had under consideration Senate Bill 1013 and report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The committee will now have under consideration House Bill 30. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 1 of House Bill 30 has been made by Representative Burgoyne and seconded by Representative Luker.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 1 will be considered read. The chair now recognizes the good gentleman from District 16 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 30 would change the law to allow for the making of written statements under penalty of perjury rather than to have to always give an oath, which requires a notary statement to that effect. The amendment makes clear that by allowing written statements to be made under penalty of perjury, there is no effect on another instrument that notaries give called an acknowledgement. An acknowledgement is where a notary simply certifies that the person signing the document is who he or she says he or she is. I know that was a little awkward. So the amendment simply makes a clarification that in changing how we give statements under oath or under perjury will not affect these identification statements that are given by notaries called acknowledgments. Thank you.
Any further debate in favor of the amendment? Any debate in opposition? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 1 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion has been carried, and the amendment to Section 1 will be adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
Correction to title?
Yes, the motion for correction to title has been made by Representative Burgoyne and seconded by Representative Luker.
If there are no objections, the correction to title to House Bill 30 will be considered read. You all have heard the motion to correct the title. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried, and the correction title is adopted.
Mr. Chairman.
Good gentleman, District 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rises, a report that it's had under consideration House Bill 30 and report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. The committee will now have under consideration House Bill 193. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 2 of House Bill 93 has been made by Representative Packer and seconded by Representative Lurcher.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 2 will be considered read, and the chair recognizes the good lady from District 28 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good members of the body, the House Bill 193 speaks to E911 fees and management, and as a matter of compromise of all parties, there are two amendments that have been requested. The first, excuse me, had opened the wrong paper, and I apologize for that.
You're doing just fine.
The first is on page 4 of the printed bill is to delete lines 48 through 50. Then on page 5, delete lines 1 through 11. And in line 12, delete A and B of this subsection each. And then insert the number 4 in parentheses with a capital E for each. The second amendment would be to section 3 on page 5 is to delete lines 46 through 48.
Good lady, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
What we will do is we just take up the amendment to Section 2 first.
Oh, okay.
We'll go all the way through the ayes and the nays and all that jazz, and then we'll come back and we'll do it again for the one to Section 3.
Thank
so
you.
let's
Sorry.
just do Section 2 for right now. Okay? Is there any further debate in favor of the amendment to Section 2? Any debate in opposition to the amendment? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 2 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion is carried, and the amendment to Section 2 is adopted. Are there further amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 3 of House Bill 193 has been made by Representative Packer and seconded by Representative Lurcher.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 3 will be considered read, and the chair will recognize the good lady from District 28 to open debate on Section 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In addition to the previous amendment, in Section 3, they want to amend on page 5 a deletion of lines 46 through 48, and on page 6, they would like to delete lines 1 and 2, and at that point, insert the number 6 in parentheses with funds received from the fee imposed pursuant to the provisions of sections 31-4813 Idaho Code shall be distributed quarterly to each governing board based upon population served, excluding 1% to be used for administration of the Emergency Communications Commission as described in this section. That amendment was to make sure that the funds were used based on a population and that it would also be there to support existing public use. The amendments are the result of compromise worked out between the IECC and Idaho Sheriff's Association and those other interested parties, and the bill with its amendments are supported by the counties, cities, and all interested parties.
Thank you. Any further debate in favor of the amendment to Section 3? Any debate in opposition to the amendment to Section 3? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 3 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. The amendment to Section 3 is adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
Is there correction to title?
No correction to title.
Mr. Chairman.
Good gentleman, 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rises, it reported that it's had under consideration House Bill 193 and reported back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The House will now have in consideration House Bill 171. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 1 of House Bill 171 has been made by Representative Kaufman and seconded by Representative Youngblood.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 1 will be considered read, and the chair now recognizes the good gentleman from District 25 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 171, during the committee hearing, the Idaho Water Users Association and the Idaho Trial Lawyers Association objected to the broad immunity to counties and highway districts and requested amendments. In response to their concerns, it was sent to the amending order and incorporated an acceptable amendment. The amendment is the same as the liability provision for the new section in our new Section 4, replicates the language in that was adopted in Senate Bill 1383 in 2012, addressing the irrigation district liability in Idaho Code 42. We have received written confirmation from the water users that they have approved these amendments. I ask for a favorable vote.
Thank you. Any debate in favor? Hearing none. Any debate in opposition to the amendment? Debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 1 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The amendment to Section 1 is adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
Is there correction to title?
Yes, the motion for correction to title has been made by Representative Kaufman and seconded by Representative Youngblood.
If there are no objections, the correction to title of House Bill 179 will be considered read. You all have heard the motion to correct the title. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried and the correction title is adopted.
Mr. Chairman.
Good gentleman for 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rises, it report that it has had under consideration House Bill 171 and report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. The committee will now have under consideration House Bill 120. Are there amendments?
Yes, the motion to amend Section 1 of House Bill 120 has been made by Representative Luker and seconded by Representative Andrus.
If there are no objections, the amendment to Section 1 will be considered read. The chair now recognizes the good gentleman from District 15 to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The underlying bill would prohibit the use of credit cards and debit cards in the purchase of lottery tickets. This amendment would permit the use of debit cards in over-the-counter transactions.
Any further debate in favor of the amendment? Any debate in opposition to the amendment? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall the amendment to Section 1 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried and the amendment to Section 1 is adopted. Are there further amendments?
No further amendments.
Is there correction to title?
No correction to title.
Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman from 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rises, it report that it has had under consideration House Bill 120 and report it back with amendments and without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second that motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. It will be done. The
Mr.
gentleman
Chairman,
from District 14.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee rise and report.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You all have heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It will be done, and the committee of the whole will be dissolved.
Some of the easy bills that nobody's going to talk about.
The House will be in order. The gentleman from District 13.
Mr. Speaker, we, your Committee of the Whole House, report that we have had under consideration House Bill 45, House Bill 98, House Bill 90, House Bill 91, House Bill 113, House Bill 30, House Bill 193, House Bill 171, House Bill 120, and Senate Bill 1049, Senate Bill 1014, and report them back without recommendation and as amended. We've also had under consideration House Bill 111. And we want to report them back without amendments and without a recommendation. Mr. Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
Mr. Speaker. Almost missed my line. Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
You all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. The amendments will be referred to the Judiciary Rules Administration Committee for printing. Oh, what? Do you want to return now? Is he going to ask, though? The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, point of personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, member of the House. We have a lot of bills on that third reading calendar, and I'd like to work for another 15 or 20 minutes and go back to the third reading calendar, but I don't want to do any controversial bills. We want to get the ones that are easy, so you'll see me skipping through to try to do the ones that I think are easy, because we can get through a few in 15 minutes. So, Mr. Speaker, what I'd like to do is revise my earlier unanimous consent bill, which held all the third reading bills on the third reading calendar by one legislative day, and ask that I change that motion, ask unanimous consent, that the third reading calendar be open for debate, I guess is what I want to say. I'm not sure I want to say it.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request that the House return to the 11th order of business and take up the bills, the remaining bills on the third reading calendar. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the House will return to the 11th order of business, third reading of bills and joint resolutions. The House is at the 11th order. The House will have under consideration House Bill 238. Good gentleman from District 12.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask that unanimous consent to not read House Bill 238.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman is recognized to open the debate.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I'm glad this is an easy bill. It is an appropriation for the 2014 Department of Finance in the amount of $6,812,800, with full-time equivalent positions capped at 64. The appropriation provides for increased costs of benefits and statewide cost allocation. It also provides an increase to repair printer cartridges, copy leases, software, and software subscriptions and computer supplies. Finally, this budget provides for an office specialist, a money transfer examiner, and salary increases for 19 staff to bring them from below 80% of policy to 93% of policy. This agency is funded by dedicated or service fee income, and any amount exceeding the previous year's appropriation plus 25% is transferred to the general budget. I would ask your support of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 238 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Have all the members voted?
Bateman? Raybold?
Representative Raybold votes aye.
Okay.
Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 59 aye, 9 nay, 2 absent excused. House Bill 238 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 238 will be transmitted to the Senate. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask unanimous consent that House Bill 221 be placed on the below House Bill 217 on the third reading calendar.
You've all heard the request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, so ordered. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 188. The gentleman from District 27.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ask unanimous consent to dispense with further reading of House Bill 188.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is a compliance or a conformity bill, and by way of history, hospitals in the state of Idaho and indeed around the country that wish to participate in federal programs such as Medicaid, Medicare, TRICARE, et cetera, are required to conform to a set of federal regulations called Conditions of Participation. And it's a book about this thick of federal regulations. These regulations are periodically reviewed, and indeed the the CMS asks for input from such entities as the American Hospital Association, the American Medical Association, Joint Commission on Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations, and other entities for workability of these regulations. One of the lengthy chapters in these regulations deals with the formation, the governance, and the procedures associated with medical staffs. In July of 2012, some changes to regulations from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services went into effect as part of an initiative to make the regulations more streamlined, efficient, and effective. The new rules have created a slight inconsistency with existing Idaho statute, causing some confusion among practitioners and hospitals. It has also caused problems for those hospitals trying to meet requirements for Joint Commission certification because of the inconsistency between state and federal rules. The fix is quite simple. This bill makes minor changes to Idaho code to create consistency between state and federal regulation. Idaho Code 391394 states that orders for the care and treatment of a patient must be authenticated by the author of the verbal order. This bill would include language that says another practitioner who is responsible for the care of the patient and who is authorized to write orders by hospital policy and in accordance with state law to authenticate the order may do so. An example of how this might play out in hospitals is as follows. Some physicians work schedules that include several days on and several days off. If a physician gives a verbal order for a patient, then transfers the care of that patient to a colleague in his practice, the colleague could now verify and authenticate the order instead of waiting under the old system. This is a good change in federal regulations. It actually makes federal regulations more workable. We'd just like to bring state statute in compliance with federal regulations, and I ask for your support on this. There is no known opposition, and Mr. Speaker, it came out of committee on a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 188 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Have all the members voted? Does any member wish to change his vote?
McMillan, okay, got it.
The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 67 ayes, 0 nay, 3 absent and excused. House Bill 188 has passed the House. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 188 will be transmitted to the Senate. The gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that House Bill 189 be placed on the third reading calendar below House Bill 221.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, so ordered. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 211. Good gentleman from District 35.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask unanimous consent that the further reading of House Bill 211 be discontinued.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman is recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Bill 211 authorizes the Idaho Board of Medicine to share identifying physician information with the Idaho Department of Labor in order to facilitate development of a health care workforce data for analysis, planning, determining educational program needs, and recruitment and retention of physicians and other health care providers. This type of information will be especially helpful in ensuring that we have an adequate health care workforce in Idaho, especially in rural areas. The Board of Medicine knows the total number of physicians it licenses, but that is not an indicator of how many physicians are actually practicing. The Department of Labor already has physician Social Security numbers on file, so this process would allow for a cross-reference with Board of Medicine data to accurately identify those physicians actually practicing in the state of Idaho as opposed to those who hold Idaho licenses but do not actively practice here. Appropriate measures are taken to ensure privacy and security measures are strictly enforced. The Governor's Idaho Health Profession Education Council is working in partnership with the Department of Labor to develop the database, and IMA physicians support this effort. This data will also be valuable for legislators and other policymakers who must determine Idaho's future health care provider needs and adequately fund education and training programs to meet those needs. Given the current shortage of physicians in Idaho, our state currently ranks 49th in physician to population ratio. The database will be a valuable tool to ensure that we will have adequate physician workforce in the future. As for the language of the bill itself, House Bill 211 amends the powers and duties of the Board of Medicine found in Section 54-1806 of Idaho Code, and on page 2 of the bill there is added a new section 13 to specifically authorize the board the IMA, working in consultation with the Board of Medicine on this legislation. They have no objections to the change. In fact, the Board of Medicine likely appreciates the clarification that allows them to participate in this worthwhile project. The Health and Welfare Committee recommends by unanimous vote that we receive a green light on this bill. Mr. Speaker, I'd stand for questions.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 211 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted?
Nielsen?
Representative Nielsen. Representative DeMordaunt. He voted.
Good.
House be at ease. House be in order. Does any member wish to change his vote? Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. Roll call shows 54 aye, 13 nay, 3 absent and excused. House Bill 211 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 211 will be transmitted to the Senate. The House will now have under consideration House Bill 216. Good gentleman from District 23.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and request unanimous consent dispense with further reading of the bill.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there objection? Hearing none, the good gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished colleagues, this one is a very simple one that actually does even the consistency of the law. Some time ago, there was a bill that was passed that exempted guide towers, that are these large towers of electrical guide towers that are in excess of 50 feet, not to have to come under the same regulations as cell phone towers and so on, exempted them from lighting and some of the other regulations. It didn't exempt them from the wires that you see go across perhaps like Anderson Dam that go across with all of those hydrogen, or not hydrogen, but helium balloons that keep those wires up. Those are still there and everything. It's just the guide towers that we're talking about, and all this bill does is simply puts everything on the same level like the federal utilities. For example, Bonneville Power Administration, they were not included in that. No one thought about that when they passed that, to include them, to exempt them from having those lights and so forth on their guide towers, just like all of the others are exempt. We're just asking for that exemption for those federal utilities. So with that, I would ask for your green light. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, the debate is closed. The question is, shall House Bill 216 pass the House? The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted?
Hence, got it.
Does any member wish to change his vote? The clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. The roll call shows 67 ayes, 0 nay, 3 absent excused. House Bill 216 has passed the House. Is there correction to title? Hearing none, House Bill 216 will be transmitted to the Senate. Good gentleman from District 14.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the main bills in the third reading calendar hold their place one legislative day.
You've all heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Without objection, the House will now advance to the 15th order of business, announcements. Are there announcements? Clerk may read.
Again, for this afternoon, Business Committee will meet upon adjournment. Commerce and Human Resources Committee will not meet. Judiciary and Rules Committee will meet upon adjournment, and Resources and Conservation Committee will meet upon adjournment. For tomorrow morning, Education Committee will meet tomorrow morning, March 6th at 9 a.m., East Wing, Room 41, DeMordaunt Chairman. Health and Welfare Committee will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., East Wing, Room 20, Wood Chairman. Revenue and Taxation Committee will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., East Wing, Room 42, Collins Chairman. And State Affairs Committee will meet tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m., East Wing, Room 40, Lurcher Chairman.
The House will now advance to the 16th order of business, adjournment. The House is at the 16th order. Good gentleman from District 14.
Until the hour of 10:30 a.m., Wednesday, March 6, 2013.
Mr. Speaker, I second that motion.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and the House stands adjourned until the hour of 10:30 a.m. Wednesday, March 6, 2013.